the Torah Wave, everybody. Welcome back to our Genesis class, live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg. I'm sorry we're a minute or two late. Sometimes these things take time. But we're up and running now, and we look forward to hearing what the Rabbi has to share out of the book of Genesis, out of the Torah for us today, as it has been handed down. We're joined always by many people in the Zoom room. Always an exciting class. Let's see how the Rabbi is doing today. Shalom, Rabbi Goldberg. How are you doing today? Welcome, and I'm going to turn the class over to you.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening from Jerusalem. Good to hear you. Good to see you. Thank you, everybody, for all of the blessings that I got for last week. I'm sorry that my brother who did all of this broadcasting, I know that he's not a professional, but soon I'm going to give also a short video of a professional video of the wedding. It was really lovely. It was amazing. I think that only today I managed to get back to the ground, and I'm blessing everybody to also to have this joy of him getting married, her getting married, or one of his kids, hopefully soon.
Mazel tov. It was exciting, yes. We had a lot of people tune in.
Fine. Wedding is always a joy. It is we're bringing to oneness, to the Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Ra, okay? Because everything is combining together. It's the continuous of the world, and it's really a lot of joy for everybody in this world to be in a wedding. So this is point number one. Point number two is that I put on the chat booth where you can take, or when you can maybe, Dan, you can also put it on the chat book of the YouTube and Facebook, where you can download Brit Shalom book in I think already we have there's something like 7 languages as an ebook to your device. So you can take it, you can download it for, it is also in German. So you can also download it in German. I think Nicola is also from the, Jenaline also from the German language. So you can also have it in German. You can spread it to your friends, whatever it is. So this is the second point. The third point I will mention now, maybe we'll speak about this more or less, I don't know. I had a lot of, how do you say it's done? I was, people blamed me, okay, for things that we didn't do. So I hope to speak soon also with what's his name, with Ray Peterson. I think I really appreciate a lot of things that he's doing. I know that there are a lot of discussions behind the scenes with all of the sorts of things and all sorts of letters that I'm getting suddenly in the last few days. We will speak about this maybe later on. I don't have a lot what to say because we're not connected with all of this big argument that there is, but I understand people want to speak with us. So we'll have few words, but basically I need to speak with Ray to understand exactly what is happening, and also then with the people from Native. If we did a mistake, so we won't be connected with Native, and if we didn't do a mistake, let's see. I need to listen to the people. I didn't have the time. On Thursday last week, it started, where for us it was in the middle of the Shabbat. A wedding is a 7-day of celebration in Israel. And
okay. Do you want me to tell them what happened? Okay.
Let's learn. No. Let's learn a bit, and then we can speak about those things.
Yes,
let's
sir.
start with the main thing. Where the main part is learning, and especially that people are not from the United States. So all of the arguments in the Noahide community of the United States, with all of the respect of that I have to the United States, the Canadian people are much better. Don't. Wendell is going to.
Oh, those Texans are going to take that hard.
Davis, I'm sorry. Also, the American people is okay. From time to time, they are shaving the beard, so it's okay. Also,
you don't have to apologize for these people here. We're all arrogant, I guess. And we all think we know what everybody else should do better than they do. So, yeah, I'm going to stay out of the argument, but I will listen to what it's about. I just feel like I just follow you. That's it. I got my teachers, and that's where we go. That's it.
Fine. And then the last point I will start before we start the lesson. Angela and Mike. Angela, I hope that in the last few days, suddenly Mike can see you. So it's really good blessings.
Yes,
for
Mike
both
had
of you.
cataract surgery, didn't he?
That was my second one. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
He says
Blessings
I'm
for
looking
everybody.
old.
After 5 years, he didn't saw you. Suddenly,
Something to be said for cataracts, Rabbi. It does make everything look better.
I'm sorry I'm late. I've been at my daughter's having a lovely afternoon.
fair enough. It's okay. It's fine. So let's start. Let's learn something. You know, we have one of the biggest chapters that we're going to learn today. Let's share the screen for a moment and let's go inside. Straight ahead, we're going to learn one of the biggest, hardest, I don't know how to call it, chapters in Genesis. And this is a chapter of Abraham being ordered to sacrifice, to uphold his son in an altar. Okay, so let's start to learn it. It's very it's a heavy chapter. I think that today we will manage to speak only about one point of view of this chapter, and then next week we will speak about the other 2 points of view. This we will start, you know, step by step. But this is, I will say, to realize how much it's important, this chapter, on Rosh Hashanah, okay, the day of that we believe, or the day that we are holding as God created the world, where Adam and Eve were in the Eden garden, and the Garden of Eden, and they were kicked out, and they did the sin and everything else. The main part that we are reading in the Bible is this thing. We also have in our tradition that it happened on the same day. But there is a reason, because there are a few things that happened in this day. For example, one of the things that happened in this day is that the Hebrew people stopped being slaved in Egypt in this day. They went out from Egypt only on 6 months later, but they stopped becoming a slave on this day. But we're not reading anything that is related with the Passover in the day of the Rosh Hashanah. We're reading this. So this chapter is a very, very heavy, important chapter that we have and that we understand. It's one of the main climax of Abraham, one of the biggest climax of Abraham. It's like the Everest, I will call it like that, of Abraham with his tests that God gave him. And let's start. Let's read in the beginning. Let's read first of all the sentences, the verses, and then we can continue. I will tell you till where. Just a moment. Let's read first till verse 12, and then we'll start to explain these things.
We're reading from Genesis chapter 22, everybody. So, Genesis chapter 22, verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham, and he said to him, Abraham, and he said, Here I am. And he said, Please take your son, your only one, whom you love, yea, Isaac, and go away to the land of Moriah, and bring him up there for a burnt offering on one of the mountains, of which I will tell you. And Abraham arose early in the morning, and he saddled his donkey, and he took his 2 young men with him, and Isaac his son. And he split wood for a burnt offering, and he arose, and he went to the place of which Hashem had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from afar. 5. And Abraham said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey, and I and the lad will go yonder, and we will prostrate ourselves and return to you. 6. And Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering, and he placed it upon his son Isaac, and he took into his hand the fire and the knife, and they both went together. 7. And Isaac spoke to Abraham his father, and he said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. And he said, Here are the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, Hashem will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. And they both went together. And they came to the place of which Hashem had spoken. And Abraham built the altar there and arranged the wood. And he bound Isaac his son, and he placed him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. And an angel of Hashem called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. 12. And he said, Do not stretch forth your hand to the lad, nor do the slightest thing to him. For now I know that you are a God-fearing man, and you did not withhold your son, your only one, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes. Oh, stop there, Rabbi.
We can stop here. Okay, let's stop here. This is the first part. First, we need to do some, I will say, research, or to see the differences or the similarness of the first test that Abraham had. And the first test, who remember what was the first one? The first test was already a year ago that we learned it. Do you remember what it was? I'm going to show it here.
To leave his homeland.
Exactly. This was the first one. So please read the first one here in chapter 12. The first
And the Lord said to Abram, Go forth from your land and from your birthplace and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will aggrandize your name, and you shall be a blessing.
Fine. Now, we have here the same word, go forth from your lands. It's being written down here, lech lecha, go forth, go ahead. We're studying here the same thing. And go away. Now, it's I'm sorry that it's not the right translation. Again, you see, velech lecha. It's the same thing. It's the same word. In English, in Hebrew, it's the same words. In English, they're trying to change the words a bit, but it's go forth again. There is the difference. I understand why the difference of the translation, but always the translation is losing something. First of all, we need to realize the first test that Abraham is passing and the 10th test that Abraham is passing is, I will call it, there is some similarity between them by moving to the next stage. So if in the beginning, Abraham is moving out from his family, out from his, I will call it a roof ceiling that he believed in, and he's starting his journey to get close to God and to do things to provide God's name in this world. Now, Abraham is going to move to another stage, the last stage of himself. Everything was preparing for this main test that he's going to pass now. Let's think for a moment, just for realizing with ourselves, how many years Abraham was waiting for a kid? 100 years. Miraculously, he got a kid, right? And now God is telling him, sacrifice. Something here we need to realize, we need to understand. Another thing that I want to point before we're starting to dig inside a bit is what exactly is the answer of Abraham? Now, let's be very precise, okay? Because we see here that God is saying to Abraham, he says to him, Abraham. Before we go into the answer of Abraham, in a moment we'll go to the answer, I think it's reminding me that God already called few people in this world before. He spoke, or he tried to speak with few people before. For example, after Adam and Eve, they did the sin. I'm in chapter 3, okay, in Genesis. And Adam and Eve are eating from the forbidden tree, and they heard the voice of the Lord of God going in the garden, and then God is calling to men, right? God called men, and he said to him, where are you? What is the answer of Adam? I'm hiding from you. Okay, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I'm naked, so I hide. I'm hiding. For 2,000 years, God spoke. In the next chapter, he spoke with Cain, and then he spoke with Noah. God spoke with few people till now. For 2,000 years since God created this world, he is calling the righteoushood, and only Abraham is answering the answer of, here I am. I'm here. God, what do you want me to do? I'm worshiping you. If you will obey me something, I will do it. In Hebrew, it's a very hard, a very exact word. Hineni. I'm here. Okay, here I am. There's a song of Scorpius, I think. Here I am. We will give you an angel. There's a song like that in the England. I think they know that, right? Here I am. Will you give me an angel? Right? Something like that. Here I am. It's an answer of presency. God is asking where you are, what with you is calling you. I'm here. I'm your servant. What do you want me to do? But I want you to see for a moment that when we read it, it's a bit sticky inside. It's hard to see it. That when Abraham is taking everything to sacrifice his son, and he's not taking any lamb or anything else. So Isaac is asking, okay, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? So again, and Isaac spoke with Abraham, his father, and said, my father. And what exactly is the answer of Abraham? Here I am, my son. The words, here I am, showing a lot of humility. Okay, Abraham is not, I'm your father, you will do what I'm saying to you to do. I'm listening. What do you want to say? Now, I'm going to ask a question before we're going to go inside to Rashi and everything else. We have in 3 dimensions that I want to speak about this chapter. And the first dimension is the relationship between Abraham and his son. So first of everything, I'm asking you to look for a moment in those verses and tell me who is the one that is active and who is passive. Read it for a moment, read it for yourself. It's very simple. It's on the board, but you can see it also if you have the text in front of you. Who is active, Abraham and Isaac, and who is passive?
I think they're all active to some degree.
Okay. What others? Can we have another answers? More answers?
Oh, I would say that the active thought pattern is coming from Yitzhak. It's coming from Isaac.
Isaac.
Because he's asking the questions and Abraham is just answering. Isaac's carrying the wood. Isaac's doing the labor. So I'm seeing him as being the more active and not passive here.
Okay. Do we have more answers? Okay, fine. I understand.
I think Abraham is active. Isaac is just asking questions because he seems not to understand, but all the actions are done by Abraham.
Okay, so now we're starting to have a battle. Okay, a fight here. Anyone else wants to say?
Yes, I think Abraham is active because he's answering God and he's also answering his son.
Okay, so you went to the discussion that there is there, and it's okay. I will say something that if we'll look for a moment, let's go step by step, okay? With whom God is speaking, whom God is testing. God is testing. Who is he testing? Abraham. He's speaking with Abraham. And he's saying to him what to do, right? And then in the morning, who is going outside in the early morning of the morning, okay? In the early morning. in the morning, right? Abraham. And Abraham is taking this and taking that and doing this and doing that. And on the third day, Abraham is lifting up his eyes to look what's happening. And then Abraham is taking the wood and the offering. He is placing it on Isaac because he is already old man. So Isaac is, as a young man, he was 37 years old in those days, in the days of the sacrificing. But Isaac is just, so it's true that Isaac is asking question to Abraham, his father. By the way, this is the first time that we have that the father and son speaking one with each other, and they are calling themselves father and son. We didn't have this till now in the Bible. Nowhere. We know that who was the son of the, who came after whom, but we never saw that they have a relation one with each other. Here in verse number 7, suddenly, one is is calling the other one my father, and the other one is calling the other one my son. First time in the Bible. It's very important because now we're starting to realize the relationship in the Hebrew tradition, how much it's important to continue the continuous of the generations. It's not stopping, it's continuing. It's a long chain that it's already being here. And Abraham is not really answering him. And then when Abraham, in verse number 9, who is organizing the altar? Abraham. And this is bringing me, and who is sending his hand to slaughter his son? Abraham, in verse number 10. Okay, and it's bringing me to a very big question. Who is supposed to give his life here? Isaac. And we don't hear him, and it's just the only thing that we hear, that he's saying, oh, my father who is going to be sacrificed, and that's it. We don't hear anything about Isaac, what he's feeling, what is, who said, maybe Isaac is doing the most highest sacrifice with himself. So why not? We don't hear that Isaac here is doing something or is saying something, except for asking my father, what is happening here? That's it. A very passive person, Isaac. A very passive person. Okay. Now let's go inside a bit to things, but I need to say here things that are not written down, but we have in our tradition. And in our tradition, in the Hebrew tradition, we have a few, the Midrashim, okay? The oral Bible is saying two main things that I want to share here. The first one is the Satan. Okay, we all know this name. Let's see if Rashi is bringing it. I think we said already. We don't need to. You can read Rashi for yourself. We mentioned those things already. That those things are coming. And it came to pass after those things, and we explained this last time, 2 weeks ago, that when Abraham is doing a piece of covenant between him and Abimelech, that he's not going to capture the land of Israel. So God is saying to him, I gave you a present, the land, and I gave you a son to capture the land. And if you don't want to capture the land, give me your son back. This is what we said here, that it's after those things. But it's not written down in Rashi. It's written down in the grandson of Rashi is bringing that. But I want to show. I want to read this for a moment. This Rashi, okay? You can read this slowly.
Where Rashi says, your son, he, Abraham, said to him, I have two sons. He, Hashem, said to him, your only one. He said to him, this one is the only son of his mother, and that one is the only son of his mother. He said to him, whom you love. He said to him, I love them both. He said to him, Isaac. Now why did he not disclose this to him at the beginning? In order not to confuse him suddenly, lest his mind become distracted and bewildered, and also to endear the commandment to him and to reward him for each and every expression.
So we have here in this specific verse, we have something very unique, okay, where we see some sort of a discussion between God and Abraham. When you read it on the verse, you don't see it straight ahead. But when you're starting to acknowledge what is written down here, you understand that this is a situation. God is saying to him,
In
take
verse
your
2,
son, who is my son. Your only one. Sorry,
Whom
which
you
one of them
love,
is the
yeah.
only one? Whom you love. I love both of them. Okay, Isaac. Now, there are two reasons for that. Also, when God said to Abraham, go forth from your land to the land that I'm going to show you. He never showed him, only after a few, I don't know, days, months, weeks, I don't know how much. Suddenly, Abraham saw the land of Israel. The same thing here. So on one side, it's to give him more reward for everything for every word that God said from his, his mouth. On the other side, it's also not to show or not to bring Abraham to a situation where he is doing this because he is shocked, not because he is acknowledged. It's a discussion. It's not so clear. I don't know who to sacrifice. I don't know who you want me to bring as an altar for you, and the altar to you. Okay, God. So this is one thing.
Well, isn't that how life kind of unfolds somewhat too? I mean, Hashem works mysterious, and we see interaction in a very unique way. Yeah, as far as divine providence in anybody's life, I mean, just the way Hashem leads and guides, there's always that veil of where faith has to step forward, and Hashem confirms, based on the walk.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's one of the things that it's very hard for us because we know this story, okay? And I think that we said more than once that when we are learning the Bible, we need to learn it like we don't know the next part of the verse. So let's read it now where we don't know the next part of the verse. And he said, God said to Abraham, please take your son. So
Which
now we're
son?
starting to realize, which son? I have two. So God said to him, no, you're only one. I'm sorry.
They're both.
Each
only
one of them is the only one for his mother. No, whom you love. So you're saying to yourself, whom I love? I love both of them. No, I mean Isaac. Now I'm starting to realize, no, it's going to be Isaac. But until this point, so that is, God is saying to him, Isaac, okay? Until this point, Abraham really don't know who is going to be the one that God asks him to sacrifice. He doesn't know. It's not a game. What is happening here? It's not a game. It's a true situation. We today know already the story, so it's hard for us to read it. But each verse here is saying something. Let's continue on, okay? And
it's like
for
the degree of
burnt
the test.
offering on one of the mountains. Now he is going to walk for 3 days, searching for a mountain. Not one day. Again, we just read it before, and in a few minutes. Very nice. Please take your car for a moment and drive for 3 days. I did it once when I was in Australia. We drove for 3 or 4 days from Melbourne to Sydney. Okay?
In Canada, we can drive for 5.
Yeah, no, I know that. I know that we can drive for a few days. But when you're driving those hours that you're driving and you're listening to the radio and you're speaking with your spouse and you're doing everything, those are 3 days.
Yeah.
What is happening in those 3 days? In a moment, we're going to say that again. For us today, we know the end of the story. Very nice. We're very calm. We're reading it very calm. Think for a moment of Abraham at this point of time. God is saying to him, I want him as an offering on one of the mountains.
Thinking about it. He'd be really thinking about this. Yeah, what's going to happen.
Now, okay. And then Abraham is not hesitating. On the morning, he is arising. On the morning, read for a moment, you see. Arose early.
Abraham, and he arose early. He hastened to perform the commandment. In other words, he put Hashem's request before his own feelings.
Exactly. And then another thing. And he saddled. Please read this also.
And he saddled, he himself, and he did not command one of his servants. You notice he brought servants with him because love causes a disregard for the standard of dignified conduct. Wow, it's a very big point there.
Exactly. And I want to say more than that in a moment. Please read the next Rashi. He's two young men. Who was the two young men that he took with himself?
Ishmael and Eleazar, for a person of esteem is not permitted to go out on the road without two men. So that if one must ease himself and move to a distance, the second one will remain with him.
So this is, I will say, a technical issue. Okay,
Practice.
if one is going away, practice way how to behave. But on the other side, we have here, listen good now what we have here. We have here Isaac, Ishmael, and Eliezer. Okay, each one of them is claiming, I am the continuous of Abraham. Isaac is saying, I'm the continuous of Abraham. Ishmael is saying, I'm the continuous of Abraham. And Eliezer, the servant, we will see this in the next parsha, is also saying, maybe I'm the continuous of Abraham. I have a daughter, and she will get married with Isaac. And the understanding of what's happening here is that in those 3 days, Abraham is moving on something inside him to decide who is the continuous of Abraham. It's not going to be Ishmael. It's not going to be Eliezer. It's going to be Isaac. We are reading this and we already know the story. Everything is fine. Now Abraham is going to move in the next coming 3 days to decide who is going to stay and who is going to continue with him. Who is the next generation that will continue, that will get the blessings, that will get everything from him. This is what is happening here. And what happened in the 3 days? So first of all, let's read for more Rashi for this also, it's very important. And then I will say a few things that happened in the 3 days. Please.
Okay. On the third day, why did he delay from showing it to him immediately? So that the people should not say that he confused him and confounded him suddenly and deranged his mind. If he had had time to think it over, he would not have done it. And that's so true.
So we have here something that, take your time and be fully in this situation. Believe in this. Now, usually 3 days is, in the Bible, it's saying that there is some sort of a gap, okay? And we're moving to the next stage of the history. Isaac is going to continue, Abraham, and he's going to do this differently. We're going to speak about this next week. The most important thing in those 3 days that it's not written down, not in the Bible, not in Rashi, but our sages are saying to us that the Satan came to Abraham and he was in the image of an old man. Abraham is an old man and also the Satan is an old man. And the Satan is starting to ask him, where are you going? What are you doing? Why do you have this wood and the fire and the knife that you're going to slaughter your son? After 100 years that you got your son, you're going to slaughter him? Now, we can stay with the imaginary children thought that Satan came to him and everything. What the sages is trying to say to us, that he had all the time inside debates in himself, is he doing the right thing? It's not easy to think like that. In a moment, I will explain a bit more why it happened. But first of all, we need to realize what is happening inside Abraham. Inside Abraham, he's asking himself, is this the right thing? Is God really spoke with me to do this thing? This is what I need to do. Again, in a moment, I will explain this, and I will explain what happened here, why God asked him to do that, and what exactly he asked him to do. But first of all, we need to realize Abraham have a lot of debates inside himself. And and with Isaac, our sages are saying that the Satan was like a young guy, okay? Isaac was 37 years old, and he said to him, you don't know that your father is taking you to slaughter you? What are you going to say to your, what is he going to say to your mother after you were slaughtered? Remember that with Cain, with Abel, what are you going to say to our parents when you're going to kill me? The same thing, he asked him. Again, we have the debates inside Isaac. Is he doing the right thing? Now, I want to explain, and then Abraham is deciding. Okay, Abraham is saying to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey, and the lad will go yonder, and we will prostrate ourselves and return to you. Look here, these words. Please read this Rashi, it's a very important one.
And
Please read this
return.
part.
He prophesied that they would both return.
And please read this part.
I.e., Abraham prophesied without realizing it.
Okay, now in a moment I will explain a bit how.
So it
technically
wasn't a
happened.
lie.
It wasn't a lie. Both of them came back. Okay, Isaac also came back. We know that there's a lamp there that there was. But let me explain for a moment what is happening here, or why God is doing all of this thing in the beginning. In those days, it was very clear to all the idolatry people that they love their God in a way even more than the firstborn child. It was just like in a very big difference, of course, okay? Just like today, it's very clear that most of the people are going to the church on Sunday or something like that. And the same thing, it was very clear that everybody is sacrificing his firstborn baby. Why that? Because the God that they believed in, it was so close to them, it was so real with them, so they decided, or they felt that they must give the firstborn to God. Maybe it was a bit of a, if you remember that we spoke about this, that Abel gave the firstborn to God, and Cain kept the firstborn things to himself, and people tried to overcome it, to say, no, we're giving the firstborn to God. Everybody was doing that. Everybody in the world, this is what they did. It's not something that I will say it like that. It's not something that we invented today. It's how it happened then in those days. Now suddenly comes someone like Abraham and saying, no, the God that we believe in is not something that you can feel. It's not something that you can hold. It's not something that you can hug. But I love him. So everybody said to him, yes, but you don't love him like us. You love him less, a bit less. You don't really love God. If you really love God, sacrifice your firstborn baby. And this is where God is saying to Abraham, show them that you can do that. Please read for a moment this part of Rashi, the beginning of it, okay?
Okay. After these things, some of our sages say that this happened after the words, translating Devarim as words of the Satan, who was accusing and saying, of every feast that Abraham made, he did not sacrifice before you one bull or one ram. He, Hashem, said to him, does he do anything but for his son? Yet if I were to say to him, sacrifice him before me, he would not withhold. And some say after the words...
No, never mind.
Okay.
The second part, okay? The first part is most important. It's like people felt that Abraham is only thinking for himself, and he doesn't really like God on the same level that they like the idolatry. Therefore, it's much stronger, the love of God that they have, than the love of God that Abraham had. And this is where Abraham was supposed to show to the world that he loves God not less than them, but also to stop this idolatry of killing the firstborn babies. Today, it's so far from us, and we don't understand that. But go for a moment to ISIS. We all know ISIS. Have you ever
know
thought
them
about
personally,
this?
but
Thank God. And I hope that nobody will know them in a personal level. Today, by the way, they have a lot of big, strong movement in Africa. But let's go for a moment to ISIS. And we have, unfortunately, also young kids from Europe and from the United States that are going to volunteer to be part of this ISIS.
ugh.
But what is ISIS doing? They're saying, we have such a strong connection with God, we don't care to die. We don't care to die for that, because it's much more important to be part of God, to be related with God, than our lives.
Fanaticism.
Abraham,
Yeah.
fine, but Abraham is The flip coin, that's it, enough. No, it's much more important to stay alive and to sacrifice instead an animal and to say, I was supposed to be sacrificed, but I'm sacrificing the legs of the animal instead of my legs, the hands of the animal instead of my hands, the stomach of the animal instead of my stomach, and the head of the animal instead of my head. But I'm alive, and from now on, I will continue to bless God and to be part of the what we call Kiddush Hashem, to live in the right way here in this world. This is what is happening here. And this is what Abraham is saying to God, here I am, okay? I'm here to do this thing. Now, it is very interesting that wherever God is speaking in the Bible to sacrifice, that this is something that you need to know with the Hebrew. It says that, it says something a bit different, okay? It says that la'asot, to do sacrificing, okay? Here it doesn't say that God is asking him to do, but more to bring him, okay? Veha'aleu, to bring him. There is a verse in Jeremiah. Let me jump to Jeremiah for a moment. Let me jump to Jeremiah. It is prophets in Jeremiah. In Jeremiah chapter 19, sorry. It says in verse number 5, okay? This is a very hard chapter, okay? It says, basically it describes the Hebrew nation on the days of the kings, that some of them sacrificed their sons, okay? Again, it was for more than 1,000 years after Abraham. Still, people sacrificed their sons, and it's called this is by the Valley of Hinnom, the Ben Hinnom Valley. Okay, this is where it's written down. Everybody's quoting the Gehennom. It's from here, from this part of Jeremiah. This is where it's written down, and read for a moment verse number 5.
Number 5. So we're in Jeremiah chapter 19, verse 5. And they built the high places of Baal to burn their children with fire as burnt offerings to Baal, which I did not command, neither did I speak, nor did it enter my mind.
God is saying, he is hinting for our chapter. Okay, let's see if Rashi is bringing it here. I don't remember.
Wow, that's huge.
Yes, and he's saying, I never thought, no, it's not bringing it here. Okay, I never thought, Rashi's in here for a moment. If you will see, God is saying to Abraham, to close it, Rashi for a moment. God is saying to Abraham, just bringing up on the altar, okay? He's not saying to him sacrifice. And this is also one of the interesting things, because who is speaking with Abraham in the beginning? God is speaking with him, Elohim, God, right? God is speaking with him. And who is stopping him from doing this thing? Who is stopping him? When Abraham is stretching his hand, the angel is stopping him. Angel of God saying to him, don't do that. Okay? Don't do that. Do not stretch forth your hand to the lad, and don't slight at your son. And it's enough. Abraham is stopping. Okay? Because God never thought that he will slaughter Isaac.
Wow, that's huge, Rabbi. I was going to ask the silly question because a lot of the Christian community might argue that it was a precursor, their version of their John 3:16 passage, which they say God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. The point being that Jeremiah 19:5 verse answered the question, that it did not enter his mind.
So now let's read Rashi for a moment. And when God is saying to him, now I know, okay? For now I know that you are a God-fearing man. In a moment I will explain this a bit because it's also very profound. So please read this Rashi.
For now I know For now I know, said Rabbi Abba, Abraham said to him, I will explain my complaint before you. Yesterday you said to me above in 21:12, for in Isaac will be called your seed, and you retracted and said in verse 2, now take your son. Now you say to me, do not stretch forth your hand to the lad. The Holy One, blessed be he, said to him, Psalm 89:35, I shall not profane my covenant, neither shall I alter the utterance of my lips. When I said to you, take, I was not altering the utterance of my lips. I did not say to you, slaughter him, but bring him up. You have brought him up. Now take him down. Now that's another support as well. And that's Psalm 89:35. Very large.
Okay, so we have here in two places in the Hebrew tradition, God never said to Abraham, you need to slaughter your son. God said to him, raise him up on the altar, okay? And from now on, or from this point of time, after you raised him up, take him down. And from now, we are stopping it. We prefer to live in the right way and not to die as a part of getting connected with God. This is where the fundamental mistake of the ISIS, or those who are going after ISIS like that. And today we know who won the battle, because today it's very clear that no one is going to kill his son for an altar or for sacrificing him for God. Again, except for part of the Arab community, who the women there, the mothers, prefer to send their kids to commit suicide and to kill others. But this is a very small part of the religion that we have in this world. But most of the people and most of the world today, not in the stage that you need to kill your son to get close to God. So here, now, it's very important that one of the things that we got here also is the relationship between the father and son. It's continuing. There is a say in our tradition. It's in Baba Kama, in the Babylon Talmud. Okay, page 95, the second side. Okay, it says like that the coin of Abraham. Now in Hebrew, when you say the word coin, matbea, it's also the law, the nature laws, or the laws of the nature. The coin of Abraham, the nature of Abraham, the laws of nature of Abraham is an old man, an old woman on one side, and a young man and a young woman on the other side. And on this part, our sages are saying, an old man and an old woman is Abraham and Sarah, and young man and young woman is Isaac and Rebecca. One of the main things that Abraham is teaching in this world, that the continuous of the generations, it's not separated, it's continuing one after each other, it's going together. And now when someone is sacrificing his firstborn son, basically what he's saying, I'm going to stop the continuous, I'm with God, and that's it. The next generation, let's see what they will do. Here Abraham is saying, no, we're not sacrificing anymore, but we are continuing generation after generation. And this is part of the importance of the family in the Hebrew tradition and the relationship that we have. This is the first explanation of this story. We have another two, but we'll do them next week. Questions till now, notes, things that you want to ask, whatever it is. This is the time.
Wow,
Not
some
everybody
real
could get there.
profound statements there, Rabbi, for sure.
Good enough. Yes.
Yeah.
Italo, yes, I'm with you. How are you doing?
So Abraham knew he was waiting for God to stop him. Did he know that it was only for you, or was he conscious that God was going to stop him at the last minute?
There is something inside Abraham that is saying to him on one side that God asked him to sacrifice. On the other side, it's some sort of a debate inside. Okay. On one side, God said to him to sacrifice. On the other side, God said to him that this is going to be his next generation. And he didn't know how it's going to work together. Again, it's today we know the story. This is
Yeah.
why it's hard for us to realize what
Yeah,
Abraham
hindsight
thought in those
and
3
foresight
days.
are totally different.
Yes, when he was inside the story in the 3 days, he went there inside and he was with a lot of doubts. He said to himself,
As we
something
all
here
are.
is wrong.
Yeah.
Something here is not, something here is not. I'm getting two different mitzvot, two different commandments from God that are contradicted one to
Contradictory,
each
yeah.
other. And I don't know, but something here, I need to continue on with the things.
Because Hashem
This is-
commanded it. Yeah.
Yes. Now, this is also what is happening there when God is saying to you, now I know that you fear from God. Now, let's look for a moment. There is a fear and there is a love. We spoke about this more than once, but there is also something much higher than the fear and the love. The fear is much lower side, where you only fear from someone else. You're not doing any active things. The love is also that you want to do for the one that you love something good for him. Okay, but there is an upper level of fear. Okay, when, for example, if your son is going to the stairs and he's almost falling down, and you're running to him and you want to help him that he won't get
Safe.
hurt.
Yeah, protect.
So when you're doing this with a fear that you won't get hurt, but you're doing it from a very deep love. And this is what God is saying to Abraham. You're in such a level of love that you also have a fear of love with me. Okay? This is the most profound sound of what's happening there.
Well,
inside this,
Rabbi, can I bring this around to what we started to talk about this alliance there with Nativ?
In a moment. Let's see. First of all,
okay.
people want more questions about this. Yes, Travis.
This reminds me, just
Go ahead. Go ahead,
just
Ashala.
finish it up, because it reminds me of Moses when with the golden calf, when God wanted to destroy the people and start over with Moses. You know, it's kind of like, I'm wondering if there's a parallel there, how to explain, you know, there's on one side he refused, and on the other side maybe you can talk about it.
First of all, it's something that we read this parsha yesterday. Okay, we read this. It's a very important parsha. There, it's something a bit similar, but there is a difference. The main thing is that in the parsha, what we read yesterday, God is saying to him, "Leave me alone, and I'm going to destroy them." Now, when someone is saying to you, "Keep me, hold me, that I won't destroy your friend," you understand that he wants you to hold him. And this is what God said to Moses. It was much more clear than what is happening here. Here, God is not saying, God said to him, no, when he was 70 years old, when he was 75 years old, and when he was 99 years old, and when he was 100 years old, he all the time told him, Isaac is going to be your son. Now, 137 years old already, 37 years since then, God is saying to him, go and sacrifice him. And Abraham is going for 3 days with all of these inside doubts and the contradiction, and he's saying to himself, what is happening here? On one side, he's feeling the drive that God is saying to him, go and sacrifice him. Now, on the other side, he knows that he is supposed to be, but he doesn't really know. At the end, it's organized, okay? But here, Abraham is in a test. Moses was in a different test. So it's a bit similar, but it's not the same thing. Yes, Travis.
Okay. As we read and we get into the part where the day before Abraham was told by God to go sacrifice Isaac, Isaac and Ishmael had a debate, as I read as I've read, and I believe it's in the Jewish scriptures, that Isaac told that Isaac told Ishmael that he would lie down to be a sacrifice willingly, should he be commanded to do so. So my question is, wouldn't this be kind of a test of his integrity to do? Because later on, when they reached the top of the mountain, didn't Yitzhak tell Abraham to bind him tight so that he wouldn't flinch and make the sacrifice desecrated?
You're saying things that we will speak next week. Okay, this
Oh,
is
okay.
another.
Okay.
It's
I'm
another
just
level
gonna hear
of the story.
Okay.
Okay, so you're right, but it's another level of the story.
Okay.
We'll speak about this. It's connected a bit to the din and the chesed and din. We will speak about this next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yes, Paul, you wanted to ask something, but open your yes.
I'm
Hello?
sorry, Rabbi, I had the wrong button.
No, it's okay.
I want to thank you, Rabbi, for your service. You always take us so deep.
Thank you very much. It's
You
it's my
take us
pleasure
very
to.
deep in the Parsha. But I wanted to say the 3-day journey was, you're saying that Abraham and Yitzchak had some kind of conflict within themselves, that if this was the right thing to do. And isn't this the dread, the din of Yitzchak? That there was some kind of din.
So the din that you're speaking about, we'll speak next week. I didn't say that they had a conflict in themselves, if to do that or not. They were 100% sure that they're supposed to do that. They had a debate inside themselves. What exactly is happening here? What God exactly wants from us? On one side, he told us one thing. Now he's telling us to do something else. And how it's going to, this conflict is going to live here. This is what they had inside themselves. They didn't have any doubts that this is what they're supposed to do. With this, they didn't have any doubts. They understood and they realized that God is asking them that Isaac is going to be sacrificed. And this was okay. Now they asked themselves how this is going to be if God also told us that Isaac is going to be the continuous of Abraham.
In other words, the promise that was given to Abraham, how would it continue if Yitzchak was to be sacrificed?
Exactly. This
Okay.
was the main question mark that Abraham was in those 3 days.
Yeah, Rabbi, many Christians would cite that Abraham thought that, God would raise Yitzhak from the dead as if it's a precursor for Christianity. And sadly, I think you've addressed this, especially with that Jeremiah 19:5 and Psalm 89:35 that was brought up by Rashi. Just they clarify the whole of the matter. I think Lisette had a question.
Yes, Lisette. You lost her?
My question is about Sarah. She's not there yet, but she died because of this. I think I read a commentary where a rabbi was saying that the Satan spoke to Sarah and told her that
what was going to happen.
What was going to happen, and then she died because of that. So that part I don't understand. Why, when after coming back, after showing Hashem that much love for him and fear to him and he.
But that's the nature of a test, though. The test is always a puzzle, a riddle, a question, something deep, right? The nature of a test is always something that is puzzling. If you've ever taken any test whatsoever, questions, whoever the teacher is designing a quiz or a test always tries to exact the depth out of the student. And this is why it states at the beginning, it was a test. Hashem was giving a deep test. It was a deep puzzle. It was a riddle within a riddle that had to be resolved. And it brought that type of confusion that we all deal with daily. We all walk with a degree of faith in Hashem, and we're faced with all different kinds of trials and things in life. And we have to ask ourselves often, what's the Torah position? I actually had a drug addict last night on one of my rounds, ask me a question about, what do you base right and wrong on? This is what the person asked me. What do you base right and wrong on? And I said Torah values. And of course, they didn't know how to respond to that, right? But that was the question. And, I was in a sticky situation with about 5 meth heads surrounding me in a dark alley. And, what do you do with it? Just to deal with the situation.
what you're saying, Dan, is good, but I think that Lisette also, I will answer you something that it's a bit hard. Okay, Lisette? I will answer another answer, not only what Dan said. Dan said good things, but in
Yeah,
my
very good what
perspective,
you're saying, but
yeah. But in my perspective,
I suspect that there is something more. So
no, fine. But I'm going to be very hard now. Okay, in my perspective, I didn't get yet to this part. It's another something like 15 verses ahead. So at this point of time, Sarah is still alive. So I don't need to deal with this question. And we will wait patiently a bit, the 3 days, the week or 2 or 3 weeks, until we're going to deal with this hard question that you raised up. But Dan gave a very good answer, but it's one part of an answer. It's okay. But let's wait a bit. Let's not jump ahead.
She knows she didn't know from Abraham what was going to happen before they left.
No, she didn't know.
She didn't know anything about it. Okay.
Right, exactly. Nathan and Ariel, you asked a question in the chat about there is some sort in those 3 days, or in the beginning of those 3 days, that Abraham is asking himself, who I'm going to sacrifice? I'm going to sacrifice Isaac. I'm going to sacrifice Ishmael, maybe Eliezer. Who is going to continue me? Okay, at the end, it's being clear that it's going to be Isaac, but it's not in the beginning. In the beginning, everything is open. When we are reading the Bible,
which is the nature of revelation, right? To understand divine providence and revelation, it's deep thoughts. Yeah.
So, Rabbi, on that, so was the way that they lived so similar that it wasn't clear who was righteous or who would be the seed? That's kind of what I was wondering.
I don't think it's only related to how did they live. Okay, it's related also to the main question: who is the continuous and who is not? Because we see, for example, in the last parsha, what we read yesterday, that the Hebrew nation could do a sin or not to behave in a righteous way with a golden craft, but still God is not throwing them around. It's not saying to them goodbye. So I know that in the Christian mindset, if you're not behaving in the right way, so you're not you're not the son of God. It's not working like that. I will ask you differently, okay? The firstborn, if he is behaving, we explained when we learned about Cain and Abel, each one of them, the firstborn have one purpose in life, and the secondborn have a different purpose in life, okay? Now, if the firstborn is not behaving in the right way, he is not the firstborn baby, it's not working like that, okay? So when God is saying that when he wants to take out the Hebrew nation from Egypt, and he's saying to Pharaoh, let my people go, they are the firstborn, okay? B'ni Bechori Israel, he is the firstborn, and they have some sort of a mission in this world, so let them go out. So if they're not behaving in the righteous way, so God is leaving them? No, it's not working like that. And the same thing is here. The main point here is that this is a turning point where Abraham, Isaac, everybody else there inside, supposed to decide who is the one that is going to take this mission. And the continuance of the story, we know that it was Isaac. But at this point, it still was a debate with Abraham. Take your son. Which one? The one that you love. I love both of them. The only one. Each one of them is the only one for his mother. So there is a time there that's supposed to be defined. It's not related only to behavior. It's also related to the main point of God. Who is the continuous? Who is taking this mission? Who is not?
Okay, that's an excellent answer. Thanks, Rabbi.
Okay. Now, Dan, if you want to say a few words about what happened there, I really don't know. I'm still, in the darkness.
Okay. Yeah. So what had happened, what had transpired is Ray Peterson, the founder of Noahide Nations. Noahide Nations has been an established organization for about 18 years. I believe they're down in Texas also. They've been in a bit of a copyright argument with the people of Nativ and YPS, which we did this strategic alignment with, over one of their Noahide courses. And what had happened is through a bunch of arguments between them, the copyright was passed on to YouTube, and YouTube literally removed Noahide Nations off of YouTube. Literally took them right down. And you got to realize this is an organization that had been up for a long time, well respected with a bunch of Noahides. And Ray Peterson, the director of Noahide Nations, put a big ranted blurb blaming the entire strategic alignment between the Noahide World Center and Nativ and YPS. And he literally named Rabbi Goldberg as being one of the managers for this decision to have his site removed without knowing the whole of the matter. And I jumped right to the defense soon as I got told about it. And I'm glad that you brought this up about in verse 3 of chapter 22, where Rashi had stated, and he saddled, because of love, he disregarded the standard for dignified conduct. Because I got a little fiery in this argument with Ray Peterson on Noahide Nation's chat room. And, I felt that he slandered Rabbi Goldberg, and I just, started hitting back without thinking, disregard for social standards. I just don't think, he should have done that publicly, but he was very, very hurt because his site was taken down. So what has happened and what has transpired, I got a long letter from Rabbi Blumenstiel, who designed a course. So apparently this course was designed, or it was commissioned. The course was commissioned by YPS, who is part of the strategic alignment that we have joined with Nativ. YPS, Yeshiva Pirkei Shoshanim, conscripted Rabbi Blumenstiel to design this Noahide Lifestyles course back in 2014. And Rabbi Blumenstiel, who was friends with Ray Peterson and Noahide Nations, thought that would be a good platform to record it on, so that they had videos of their series. And so he recorded it. But Rabbi Blumenstiel is also a copyright lawyer. He's a lawyer that handles such matters as a profession as well. And Rabbi Blumenstiel's letter basically stated that the design of the course was always for YPS, and they hold the initial copyrights, and that for him to do videos afterwards is considered what they call a derivative work. And derivatives need permission of the original copyright holder. But Ray Peterson of Noahide Nations was under the impression, we did this together, we put these videos up, and we were the first to release them, and therefore they're our property. And Rabbi Blumenstiel, being honest, he said, yes, they are yours, but they're derivatives. And nonetheless, it ended up in a big argument. But when a Noahide group that's been established for 18 years has their entire site taken down, you can just imagine the alarm of all their students that have ever gone through there. I've been getting slammed at and hated on for the last several days over just trying to defend. I told him, I said, Rabbi Goldberg's a man of great caliber, of great integrity, and I know that you have a meeting planned to chat with him. But it really comes down to,
I've first of all, I'm starting to understand what is happening here, and I want to say a few points, but I want to say up front, okay? I didn't spoke yet, not with Ray and not with the Native people.
YPS or Native, yeah.
Or the YPS. I know that the YPS, I know that the Native published the letter
course
of YPS, but I didn't saw that Native the YPS, that Rabbi Blumenstein himself wrote a letter. Okay, I saw that.
I'll send you the letter right away if you want, Rabbi. I'll send it to you.
Fine. Now I want to say one thing. Okay, I know that there are two things here that we need to discuss.
You know what? This is important because I was told by people from Nativ that they already sent it to you, the Blumenstiel letter.
No, they send me, Okay. I will say two things that we need to realize. First of all, I never heard not Ray Peterson, and he promised me that we're going to meet. I asked him to meet. I said to him, "You're accusing me of things. I want to speak with you. I want to understand what you're saying." But so he promised that we're going to meet this week. And this is point number one. I need to speak with him, and I need to understand. After I will speak with him, also I will speak with the native people to understand. But there are two levels here in this story. Okay, the level of the legal side. This is one level, but there's also the level of
Ethical.
the ethical side of rabbis. Okay, if someone, with what you told me, I didn't spoke with any one of them, but think for a moment, okay, all of you, with what you told me. When Rabbi Blumenstein started
Blumenstiel,
this course,
it sounds like
he started
Rabbi
just a
Blumenstiel
moment.
made a couple of statements that led
No,
them to believe one thing.
But when he started this thing, his work, he didn't have an audience. So where exactly he got the audience?
Yeah, it was his.
He went to Ray Peterson, right?
He did.
And they did
Yes,
something
yes.
together. And now he's saying to him,
requested,
"Don't touch it anymore," because something here doesn't really sitting down in my head. So I need to listen good to both sides, and maybe we have an idea. Rabbi Shirky and me, we have an idea that is going to crack down a lot of things here.
Well, this is why I try to keep backups of everything.
Give us a few days. I think that, as I said already more than once, that we need to hold hands together and not one against each other.
Right.
If we will hold hands once against each other, so we will be hanged one next to each other. And if we will hold hands together, we will be able to beat this battle. And if you will look today, for example, in what's happening in between Russia and
Ukraine.
In Ukraine, okay, we understand how much we need this movement to grow up and not to fight one with each other. Bemet, I'm really saying this, okay? So at this point of time, give us a few days. We will listen to what's happening there. We have an idea that is going to shock, I think, everybody, also them. YPS, Native, Ray Peterson, everybody, okay, there. And I think, again, that there is also, by the way, in the legal side, just you will know, in Israel, the one who is filming, he have the rights. And with what I understand, the one that filmed everything was Ray Peterson and not YPS. So, but I'm not going inside to the legal side.
Okay, the course was written was conscripted, was commissioned.
Who filmed it? Who filmed it? So let me speak with him. Give us a time. Give us a few days to speak. To accuse us that we stole something from someone, we never.
He's so hurt that his site got taken down that he's blaming everybody. But yeah, kind of trying to drag us into it. Guilt by association. Somebody used the claim that we are an axis of evil joined together to take over all Noahides, and the reality is, I've been trying to help keep the feed as nice or dignified as possible, but we've gotten awfully ugly with each other on social media, and I'm just not going to
try not to be
slandering.
Listen, Dan, let me tell you something. I'm saying it, in a friendly way with everybody here. Because you're also working at night and sometimes you're a bit tired, don't go to an ugly situation with them. Don't, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
No,
at this point of time, we did nothing wrong. We did, and we will find exactly the situation, and everything will be fine. And I think that one of the most important things that is to try to spread over the Noahide movement, okay, with people around, and to bring people to the.
Well, we have another event later on today. Rabbi Ingber contacted me, so I did a post out there later on today at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 p.m. in Texas, 2 p.m. Here in Pacific. We're going to do another event with Rabbi Ingber, and he's going to speak on He's going to peek the secret of the month of Adar and redemption. Yeah, so
Fair
if
enough.
you've got time
It's
and you
very
want to
important.
tune in for that, you can find us on the social media channels. So,
Fine.
anyways, Rabbi, I just
At
wasn't
this
going to
point of
sit by
time,
idly.
everybody's supposed to think how he's going to give more good things to the world and not to fight with others.
Exactly.
That's, I
Yeah.
think, the most important thing. Have a great week. See you next week, and hopefully in a few days also we will have a good video of the wedding, a few minutes of the wedding, so we will feel comfortable to.
So okay, so we're on for
Enjoy
next
this.
week. We're going to continue with
Yes, yes.
Genesis class next week.
The same chapter and more inside.
More
Yes,
of the same
Italo.
chapter. Beautiful lesson today, Rabbi. I want to thank you for it very much, and everybody on the gallery, all around, the world that's joined us in the Zoom rooms, plus everybody else there on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so much for joining. We will be back next week, same time, and until then, keep catching the Torah wave. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.
Yes, Italo, you wanted to ask another thing after we close the